Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that's fine. So.
Yes, menu class finally got fucking fixed.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that was good.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Welcome to the post.
Matt Morton. I was like a couple weeks ago, like on a project I was on, I was dealing with Drupal 7's menu classes, and I'm like, oh my god, this is such a pain. So.
Yes, I just saw that I made the 2 first patches to get it to work, and then you've been hammering on it for like a month to get that shit in. Like,
and it's in.
All right.
That's Go sweet. Team. So, yeah, DrupalCon has been and gone. Where's my doc here? Okay, so for me anyway, what I was mostly working on was like Twig integration stuff, because Twig 2.0 is coming eventually at some point. So there was kind of some changes, and we were working with them upstream to get some stuff sorted out. So things are looking a lot cleaner now, and that's pretty much all good. Some of that stuff will need some review, but I think there's the issue that one of my stuck issues I think should probably go in first anyway, so it's not super urgent. The Voltron patch to move the remaining .theme.css files to Classy is in, so that's awesome. WebCheck committed that last night, so thanks everyone who worked on that. And then on my list of kind of stuck issues are there's an issue with the Twig environment where it's mostly on Windows, but you could probably see it on other file systems and things too, where a recent change caused the inline templates to be, the cache file name uses like the contents of the inline template, so you get some pretty weird, gnarly cache template names that can contain basically any character. So there's a patch there that just needs some review. I think it's ready from my perspective, but needs some. Well, actually, a couple people have tested it, so it just needs kind of some code review. And then Mike has been working on a lot on the issue where Twig templates can call like delete nodes and stuff. That I think it was just RTBC. We had like a test bot fail, so it just needs kind of another RTBC. If I have time later, I'll take a look at it, or Fabian or someone might just come and re-RTBC it. But yeah, thanks Mike for all the work on that one. That was a fun one to kind of uncover.
Yeah, no problem. One thing about the Twig environment one, it pretty much hoses development on Windows right now. So
okay.
Sooner rather than later, at least for me, since I think I'm one of the last few people doing DA development work on Windows.
Well, no, there's definitely people out there.
2 others.
2 others, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any chance we can get that in to the beta. Probably not. It's probably too late by this point. But
into the RC.
Yeah, RC should be fine, but I think a beta is coming out later today. So.
Oh, all right. No, I'm not worried about that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, so I think Mark, you're next.
Sure. So in the document, I have a link to the. Hold on one second. To where I'm keeping track of all the prior things that we'd really like to get in.
Nice. Okay.
So, and I haven't found a good way to like create an auto. Like unless I were to tag each of these things, so I have to track it manually every day or two.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm just moving that. I'm just moving the Twig templates can call delete back to RTBC right now. I took a look. It's an unrelated fail. It's a migrate test. There's been a lot of migrate test-based fails. Has anybody noticed that? Like if there's a random fail, it's either AWS or migrate Drupal test base. It seems like. And I don't know what's going on with that, but anyways. Okay. So the things I have are basically like everything, but we get to do at least a little bit of a dance for title block, right? Voltron CSS, menu classes, all got in. I caught WebChick online last night, and I was like, here's our prioritized changes we'd really like that are RTBC. And she just went through and in like 20, 30 minutes, fixed all the things. I got like I think I had total like 7 issues that I worked on got on yesterday, which felt like, what? That never happens. So, anyhow, so that's really good. The view field, the theme function conversion, is RTBC, and it sounds like Catch is on board with putting it in. So, WebChick looked at it last night and deferred. I think because, Scott, you said there's some more things that you thought maybe the contextual thing could be improved still?
Yeah, and to me that could be follow-up. And just very, very, very briefly, I just want to add that that's kind of my focus right now, is trying to get those last theme functions out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Because we're down to 6 now, is that right?
I think 7, yeah, 6 or 7. Yeah, and actually before I forget, we can talk about this more later, but the theme and indentation, I feel like we can probably just get that in a similar way, because it is a slight performance decrease, but I think everyone's on board with, okay, let's just get them in.
Yep, and the details one is as close as well, right? That one's been bumping in and out of, it's like system details.
Yeah, I think that's RTBC. I think that's RTBC right now.
Okay.
I just left a comment around the translatable strings that kind of needs some double checking, but yeah.
Okay, so that means we have 4 left outside of those ones. I don't know, you're probably more familiar with those. Is it realistic for us to get those in? Like, how close are some of these? If we all work together, could we do it and kill off theme functions in Drupal?
It's realistic to get at least half of them in.
Yeah, I think most of them are quite close, because I looked at them all last night, and yeah, I think most of them are quite close. I don't know if we can actually do it. It's tough to say, because they want to do the RC on
October 7th.
The Wednesday, yeah. So, but one thing that I will share is that the committers seemed on board with actually converting theme functions after RC even, or even potentially after release, because when we remove theme functions, it doesn't really break anything. If someone is using a theme function, they can, like a theme function override, it'll still work, because you can still do that. Like in your theme, you can override a template with theme function. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. That seems like a really good. If we could all work that.
Yeah, I mean,
we got a bunch of other things in that were taking our focus, I think. So.
I agree. Yeah, and it was always the goal to get them all out of the way, like all out of the way. So it would be really awesome if we could. So that's where my focus is right now.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Libraries override is RTBC, so that's really good. So I haven't made a patch for this yet, but this is just one thing I wanted to mention. Right now, Classy doesn't have any blocks, and I don't think in the standard profile there's any reason why it shouldn't have blocks. It should be just like Stark, because it's essentially serving the same function as Stark did. Well, slightly different function, but Stark has blocks in the standard profile, and we put one in for page title block for Classy. So it's lonely and it needs friends. So, so one thing I wanted to understand though is if there's a sub-theme of a base theme, does it inherit the block placements of the base theme? Because it seems like it should. Right?
I don't think it does.
should does that.
Because I don't know. It's as soon as you change the regions or anything, then it's kind of all bets are off, you know?
Right. It just seems like it should, because it's actually going to make subtheming really hard if like every single site builder has to start from scratch, placing every single block. You know, that seems hard to me. But anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure about that. We'd have to play around and see what it's actually doing right now.
I don't think that's going to change right now. But anyways. So we have a bunch of other things that kind of are on our wish list. There's renaming menu regions. That one just kind of needs some review. Moving classes out of the C-named templates. That needs review. And then a bunch of things that need to work. Removing title and wrapper from item lists. Dream markup for tabs is kind of a tricky one because there's been some visual regressions with that. So that one needs some work for sure. Move classes from F templates needs some work. P templates hasn't had a patch since like May, so it probably definitely needs some work. We have the move admin CSS, which it seems has been a little bit trickier than the other CSS moves. And then I think we need that to go in before we remove the .module from module CSS. And I was thinking, like, is that confusing at all if there's... Because once we remove .module from that, then essentially, like, Classy will have a file named, like, dropbutton.css, and then Core will have a dropbutton.css, and they'll have exactly the same name, but they'll be entirely different things. Is that confusing at all?
I think it's okay personally, because we're kind of moving both front end and back end towards namespacing. So I think we just have to kind of deal with it.
Okay. Alrighty. And then there's an issue about removing unneeded CSS from core, and there's like one note on what we should do there, but not a lot. So. I don't know. I don't know that we're going to get all those things done in the next week. Probably not. So, any thoughts on any of those that are the highest priority that we should really focus on in that list?
So, I would like personally to see us move as many classes out of core and into Classy.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the 3 template groups we're missing, the one with the P, I think, they should be, I can give them a look over the weekend. I think I started and been hammering on them like months ago, because that was the whole, that whole issue. No, one of them was that region selector and all that stuff we talked with Wim Leers about, where Wim suddenly got epic dance moves last night. That whole quick edit selector thingy he was yapping about. So apparently that is going to solve a lot of the issues we had there, and then some of the JS stuff is keeping some of the issues up. I also think they should be pretty much ready to go. It would just be nice to feel like, okay, we don't have to think about having a class floating around somewhere that somebody might going to use for a test or whatever else that can be. I think that was the kind of things of that list. That would be, let me see what else. But yeah, you had so much stuff on it. I feel like I didn't do shit.
Can I just also say PHP template is dead?
Yes. Oh, yeah, we need... Oh, that was a very strange moment for me sitting on a flight and figuring out. I never understood why we still kept having PHP templates floating around. And when suddenly somebody came up with the security argument, it was just like...
Yeah. It was there because... Yeah, it was there because no one kind of told us, hey, you can remove this.
Yeah, no, and I've always had the... I remember when I talked with somebody about it back in Amsterdam, I said, why don't we just remove PHP template, be done with it? And there was all kinds of blah, blah, blah arguments, and it kind of felt like why we had Paul module for so many years. So it was just... it was great landing in Copenhagen again, and then the next morning seeing the patch, we were like, goodbye and done. And it seems silly to even still keep it there. It's yeah. So it's been a good week in front-end land.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I've been telling, so I don't know if everyone knows this, but we now have a NyanCat template engine for testing purposes. And so before I was telling people that PHP template was basically there for testing purposes. And so to me, the joke is that we replaced one joke of a template engine with another one.
Holy shit!
That's a good laugh. Thank you.
Yeah. I would still defend PHP template when I saw it the first time, because it actually made sense the way we were developing front-end stuff at that point, because we had IE 4 or something to support, so shit was the same markup every time. But that's like, what, 8 years ago now? Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I'm going to add one more item to our list because I don't see it mentioned anywhere. Stable theme. Right?
Sorry, you're I don't know, you're being muted weirdly or something, but
I heard you.
Can you hear me now?
I heard stable theme.
Stable
All right,
theme.
I just added stable theme to my list. We need to figure out what's going on with that. I don't know if we want to just talk about that after we finish everybody else's stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Morton, you have a couple of things here. Does anyone else want to talk about things, or should we just talk about, like, Morton, you can do your stuff, and then should we just talk about stable?
I was going through last night, figuring out in like my brain what was left that I thought needed attention, and we have a form item. When we have that still have a fuck ton of classes inside of the form item, and we don't need that actually because the way of CSS selectors is working, and we're not supporting IE8 anyways. So and that was just a thing I would like. That would be like nice to get cleaned up. I had a patch for it that turned out to be a clusterfuck at that point, but now everything else is cleaned up. I'm gonna work on that next week and see if I can get that hammered in somehow, because that would just clean up the way when we're looking into a form, what a form actually can be themed around. I think that would be a nice addition to it. But that's pretty much it. And then I'm going to help out and see if we can get close the last 3 of the big template files, so we kind of have moved everything out of it. So that's it. So yeah, and also I really want to see if we can get this last thing around stable, getting that fixed, so we have to get the document ready. So we have a document so people actually knows what goes on. So yeah, so that's actually it. I don't think we can find more things we maybe can have time to put in. So I think we're pretty much there right now.
Cool. All right. So yeah, as far as stable goes, I'll post the doc into chat again here in case anyone's been and gone. One thing that I want to say up front is that I've noticed like 1 or 2 people starting to comment on these issues who may not fully understand it, so I think it would be good if someone is able to potentially even just make sort of a summary of this doc into the issue summary of one of those issues. That might be good, because to sort of answer like frequently asked questions and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but other than that, I think we're kind of the point that we're at now. I think is we're kind of back to kind of our original thinking on this, which is copy everything, copy at least templates, CSS, and JavaScript, potentially the actual library declarations into stable, and then templates would be done because they're just all going to be overriding, and then the rest, all the assets, we would. It needs kind of some figuring out, but if we could just do something like hook library info alter, and then basically see if it's something that's coming from core itself or one of the core provided modules, and swap out the library for a stable library. And then I think that gets us what we want as far as, not trying to have stable strip things away, just kind of building on top like we've been trying to do. And then also keeping that compatibility and keeping things stable, literally. So I don't know, does anyone else have any other thoughts on that or reasons why we shouldn't do it that way?
Well, I was trying to make a pure. If you go down the bottom of the document, that was at least on Saturday or Sunday. That was my understanding of how the system would work. I think the only thing there's a little bit confusion around is, are we only going to have one version of stable? So when we move forward and say we are up at 8.5, and I'm upgrading my Drupal 8.0 site to 8.5. And then something breaks because I was relying on Drupal core markup and we changed things inside of Drupal core. How am I then able to get my markup out? And I think in my head I would like that if we either release a version of, when we release 8.3, we're releasing a stable 8.2 version of the markup from core, either in contrib or within probably contrib actually, just so we constantly can make sure that every time we do a new versioning, major version, we can pretty much do what we want to do in core. I think Larry was talking about only having one version of stable, which I never really understood. Was that just doing a stable 8.0 and then be like, oh well, we have this, and then core is just going to be a moving target as well?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it, we're already kind of doing everyone a big favor by providing stable and keeping, keep going on these things, because we could just stop and say, okay, screw you.
Yeah.
So I think contrib is going to be the answer, because it's not super complicated, but it's complicated enough to support it once, and then to have to add in more versions into core itself and kind of figure out, okay, someone's setting up a new site, which version of stable should I turn on for them? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not super trivial, so.
Yeah, we don't. I was thinking I didn't want to have core to carry around 25 versions of stable, and if we could just drop all that shit into contrib instead.
Yeah.
I mean, we will solve a lot of issues that way, and it's more of a. That's one of the things Alex Pott was talking about as well. He would like us to see people use contrib way more, and that would make it possible for us to pretty much do what we want to do. And at the same time, when we look at what classes should do, begin to look at it. Maybe in contrib do a classy 8.2 when we figured out, oh, we fixed all of these issues up in the core markup. Let's do the same thing in class, and then let's do a contrib class that follows all of those issues, so we can kind of make the themes move along with the markup that we figured out is going to be better.
Yeah. I think if we really got, stable allows us to finish cleaning things up, essentially, the things that we don't get done. And I think if we get to a point where, wow, this is exactly how we want it, we don't think that it'll change, then you could think about putting, something else in core. But, like clean theme or something like that. But I don't think putting versions into cores can be pretty confusing. We just don't have the setup to do that right now. Mm-hmm. I'll be happy if we just get stable in there, because that'll free things up a lot. So, one thing I didn't fully understand, Scott, is how the libraries alter thing works. Could you explain that real quick?
Yeah. So it's similar to the mechanism that that libraries override patch is using. So it's an alter hook where what comes in is all the sorry, no, I think it's trying to remember if it's one. I think it's one library at a time. So you get the library in, you have all the assets and everything of that library, and then you have the extension that it's coming from. And like if it's coming from core itself, the extension will be core. Otherwise, it'll be like a module name or a theme name. So using that alter hook, we can kind of manipulate things, and that's kind of how we've been doing that proof of concept so far. Is okay, because we've been kind of doing a different way of doing the backwards compatibility in our tests so far, because we, at a certain point we're like, okay, maybe we should try not copying everything. But it introduces a lot of complications, so yeah.
So templates, I understand we're copying all templates into core. Are we copying all the CSS into core as well? Or, I'm sorry, we're copying all the templates into stable. What about CSS?
Yeah, I think we're copying templates, CSS, JavaScript, and potentially also the libraries YAML from like each kind of module.
But we'd make one libraries YAML for stable, right? It would just bring in the contents of the other things?
Not sure on that point yet, and I'm not sure if we even need the libraries YAML. It's kind of, we need to kind of talk through, I think, some of the use cases and see. Yeah, so it's because potentially we could just copy the assets over and then just essentially rewrite the paths to those assets when we're altering the libraries.
Yeah, that's what we need to do because we have to leave the original library definitions and use them.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, like, what happens if we change those library definitions in some way that would break things? I don't know. I guess
So
if
as long as you don't rename the library, it's probably fine.
Okay.
Because we're basically doing something like node library. And the conditions for when it attaches it. It we just need to do is intercept that with the alter and just change the asset that it's attaching.
David, you maybe turn your video off. Your audio is very choppy. I'll turn mine off as well, just in case it's something. Yeah, Mortonitis.
Can you try talking again, David?
Very musical robot.
David, else try to write in the chat. I'm going to use this if I ever have a discussion with David of shit we need to put into Clash. I'm going to use this as an excuse.
So, I guess, yeah, I don't think that's, yeah, we do want the original libraries to work, for sure. And we just want to replace the assets when they get attached. So, okay, yeah, I agree. Sorry if I'm interrupting, but one of the scenarios that we talked about was like what we're doing right now with moving stuff to Classy. So if we take a CSS file and actually remove it from a library, and then we want to kind of add that to stable, how would we do that? I guess the answer is that not everything is going to be as simple as swapping it out. We need to potentially have some more complicated library alters in there to add things in.
Okay, what are we adding?
So, well, actually, no. So yeah, we would need to do that. So let's say we had some kind of CSS file that is in core right now. It's in core when 8.0.0 ships, but then later on we want to decide, okay, that doesn't belong here. It should go into Classy. The people who are already using the stable theme should still maintain that CSS.
So what's the plan going to be? Are we going to move? Where are we going to place stable? Are we going to put a version of stable into Drupal core that we put out with 8.0? Or are we just going to throw it all out to Contrib and say, bam, here it is?
I think if you throw it into Contrib, nobody will use it.
Yeah, it has to be in core.
Yeah.
Okay. So we make an 8.0 version that we put into core.
That's the
Right.
only version.
Yeah, that's the only version. And then as we go forward and we fuck things up down in core because we figured out all kinds of fancy new ways of doing things, then we would put stuff out in contrib instead, right?
That's kind of, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, like I think
No, I don't understand that.
it's kind of a discussion I think we should have later, because the most pressing thing is figuring out how do we actually make this work before we ship, because
Yeah.
if we don't do that, then like contrib stuff doesn't matter that much, because we'll just be stuck with the same markup and everything for.
Yeah. No, it was just I just need to get that part into my head to figure out how do I solve my 8.5 issues when I upgrade from 8.5.
Yeah, let's not prematurely optimize here. Like,
Yeah. What?
we need to worry about RC1, not 8.5, which, so,
I don't think there is anything to do. I mean, isn't that the whole point? Is that stable is basically the snapshot of 8.0.0?
snapshot.
And
So
that's the
isn't
way
it-
stays.
Isn't it easier if we move all the libraries definitions as well, so that we don't have to worry about if any of the library definitions change in core?
Yeah, it potentially could be.
It
I mean,
depends
just
on what it is,
copy it
because
all.
then if you're not using stable, you don't get those libraries.
Well, so I guess I'm confused on that point, because we're not saying move, we're saying like copy and swap.
I thought Mark was saying move.
No, I meant copy.
Duplicate them?
Copy and swap.
Copy and swappy.
Okay, but now I guess I understand. So the modules will still have a libraries definition, and core will still do whatever it does with that. That's not going to change.
Yeah, the modules themselves, like core
Yeah.
modules, would still have a libraries file, and then that way we could mess with it later on. But I think that potentially could make the most sense, especially if we're talking about adding libraries override, libraries extend, because that's sort of another similar namespace thing where one of the barriers to having stable be this thin layer without copies of everything is that if you're using, if you're extending a Twig template, or if you're using style sheets remove, or any of these things, everything would be coming from core, and then we would, when we want to add the BC, we would be moving stuff into stable, and that would break things, because the stuff that's in core could change at any time. So yeah, I think it probably does make sense to try and copy the library definitions as well.
Okay. So then one of the last things I had thought about was the CSS. Do we want to organize it like we do with Classy? And I guess templates. I guess we're putting just one components file in Classy, but with templates we have folders. I was thinking maybe it just makes sense to use the same folder structure in stable as it would for Classy.
Yes,
so there's
that
not
would
one.
make a lot of sense.
Yeah, then we don't have a folder with 100 templates in it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, at minimum, I think we're going to need to, I don't know if it exists already, but we would need to add like an admin folder or something to hold some templates that are not in Classy, but yeah, I agree.
Right.
We should try to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's kind of, if somehow we don't have enough time to do that, then, well, and I think, just to be clear, I think we probably could add stable, no, never mind. I think we could probably add stable after RC1, but I don't think we can add it after release. And if we add it after RC1, it would need like a big announcement and be like, hey, update. If you're doing any extensions or any of this stuff, you need to update it. So ideally, we can get it in really soon.
The last question I had about stable, well, maybe the last, is with the patch that's there right now, we're setting the base default theme, if you don't put anything in, as stable. And I was just wondering, like, I love the clean markup that would be in stable, but Classy is much more similar to what people expect and are used to from Drupal. Like, that's what they're used to getting. Would it make sense to make Classy the default if people don't set a base theme?
That would make sense. That would. I mean, to me, that's just it's a small little detail.
I think in general, I think it's definitely not a bad idea, but I think it's probably too late because if anyone has a production site that's not based off of Classy, then it would break.
It's true.
Yeah, so it's...
Although markup isn't frozen until... But yeah, that's a pretty big change.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just learn to love how clean everything is now. So.
I mean, my favorite bug is still the one who couldn't figure out why we didn't have menu, where his menu class was. That's still my favorite bug in the world. That was a big thing. Yeah, I think it's just people will get used to how stuff works really, really quick. I mean, that's going to be the next thing. Now that everybody knows that everything changed, they also know that they cannot assume anything of how things used to work, which is interesting because the first couple of blog posts I've seen about doing stuff with classes and stuff in Drupal 8 is basically trying to shove it with pre-processes and all kinds of stuff. So there's still some education work in front of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I really do have my last question, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
No,
Classy. Wouldn't it make sense to have stable as the base theme? Because otherwise, if we change stuff in core, then we have to like continually maintain Classy throughout the Drupal 8 lifecycle. Whereas if we just pointed at stable, then bam, like everything works.
Yes, we have to point it at stable if we don't copy those templates to Classy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we're copying everything, it makes a lot more sense to base it off of stable, and so it's kind of, this is all kind of going back to, this is originally kind of what we had thought, but then we kind of took a different route, so we're kind of just going back onto
I mean, the thing, we have about 15 or 20 templates we haven't copied over, and that was a lot of the stuff that, that was some of the arguments I had with Alex 5-6 months ago about where I wanted to move all the admin templates and everything out as well into Classy because I thought they needed to be there, and they just want to get Classy out. So that stuff definitely needs to go into stable, and actually, yes, Classy should actually then be inheriting for them because we will at some point probably have to clean up some of the administration templates and so forth later on.
Yeah.
And that will probably happen first out on the 7th theme, and then we can actually backport that all the way out to core, so we can be able to move along with stuff. This is like menu and menu item. When at some point browsers begin to support that, we want to be able to do a thing like that. So we can actually have there can be like contextual links could be written as a menu handler inside of your operation system instead of using JavaScript and stuff like that. So that's kind of exciting. So yes, I do think we need to do that because else we cannot do what we want to do with core. So.
And one thing to mention though is that we could probably find a way to deal with it by adding some kind of hook somewhere, but if we do make Classy based off of stable, that would be, I think that would be a barrier to contrib adding stable 8.2 or stable 8.3 without you having to hack the Classy info file.
How so?
Because if we're saying Classy is based off of stable, then the Classy info file would have, so it would, the Classy info file would either have base theme stable or it would just have no base theme declaration. But then if you wanted to...
Well, we can have the equivalent in contrib, we just have to call it something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, no, never mind. So this is really only, it's more for like Classy 2, so which would have a different info file. So yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
Because it's the idea, it could still coexist because like let's say you were using the 7 theme from core, which is based on Classy, which is based on stable, and then you had your front end theme was based off of like stable 8.3 or something. then that would be fine.
And that's fine because like modules do that, right? Like they say, if you're going to use this module, you depend upon this version of this other module, right? So it's the same. It'd be the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's fine because if we do have versions of stable in contrib, they couldn't use the name stable anyway without breaking everything ever. So, like, they would need a different machine name.
Yeah. All right, I'm posting a summary of what I think we decided here.
Okay, cool.
Can we get that into the core document, where's the document at? There we go. Let me just find that.
Did we actually decide something?
I don't know that we decided something. We just had a discussion, and it seemed like there was some consensus around ways to go. If there's really disagreement, say it now. You know, let's. But we have like a week. We have less than a week, so we got to make something if we want to make this happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do some of this stuff. I could set up I can do some of the stuff, like some of the moving things around and stuff like that. I don't understand the libraries alter stuff enough to whatever needs to happen with that. So, but if maybe I can help with some of the legwork on some of the other things, I'm glad to. So.
Yeah, I think, Mark, if you're able to, if you could even just create a patch that copies everything over and maybe ignore folders for now, just copy everything over, then that would help.
I could do the folders. Let's just do this right. I actually think I have some time today, so
okay.
I think we can make this happen.
Because yeah, if you can get everything into place, then that would make the library alter stuff a lot easier, because then you can just kind of start plugging away. So
all right,
yeah, I guess let me know if there's anything I can do to help, but otherwise, yeah, I can help with the library altering.
All right, sounds good.
Sweet.
I'm gonna jump into drawing mode just to make sure that we actually have a diagram so people understand what the fuck is going on.
And just by the way, if we're able to get libraries override in, that would potentially make our work so much easier, because if we can just put in stable, list out all the libraries and say like, hey, replace this with this, replace this with this, then that would be really sweet.
That's great.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm maybe.
By
maybe
the way,
maybe for now I'll just even apply that patch and play around with it that way to see, hey, is this really simple? And then maybe we can kind of get a push in on that one.
Yeah.
Because I think the committers are definitely behind the idea of stable, and if we say, hey, like libraries override is a blocker, then it's already RTBC. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I tried to explain. I was at a Drupal meetup last Saturday, and I explained this concept behind stable, and everybody was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense." And they're like, "Yeah, that's it was like an obvious thing to people." So I do think we've got to get this in there. It'll be great if we can get it in.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're agreeing that classy is gonna be based out of stable 8.0, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I
noted that in my comment.
Let me just see if I can do a screenshot, by the way, because then we're doing this. Where do I put it? God damn it. Oh, shit. It's hard to work on such a little screen when I using my 3 screens. Jeez, where are you at? Motherfucker. There we go. Stable. How can I... Oh, shit.
So I heard there was a trivia question about how many times you swore in the first 5 minutes of your presentation.
I only swore twice because I got the whole crowd to boo me, because apparently it was our fault that Drupal 8 release candidate 1 wasn't out.
That was a frustrating slide.
I had the whole room yelling at me, and that was great. Okay, I just dropped a new file into the document. If you go down to the bottom of it, it's just a really quick screenshot, just to make sure that we're agreeing on this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yes.
Oh,
And that,
yeah. Okay.
I would make your CSS framework. I would point that at stable.
oh yeah, no, yeah, no. The CSS frameworks. It all depends on what people want to do. You know,
Yeah.
dumb fuckers like me is probably gonna. I'm just gonna override everything because I'm the king of the world and I'm gonna burn down on my own. I'm gonna show different versions of it, but I'm gonna have a new version of it later on. It was just this concept that we needed to have in.
Yeah, but I think
No, I think
point
that's
is, like,
like if you're building the next Bootstrap thing or whatever, you don't want stable.
Yeah.
no, you would want stable.
No, you don't, because you want the updates and the changes.
So
don't
you
want
want,
backwards
if you're doing
compatibility.
Bootstrap, you want stable.
If
Or
you
making
are
stable
putting
for
a
the-
contrib theme, if you're putting a contrib theme out there that says, hey, I'm the Bootstrap theme, or I'm a theme that's based on Bootstrap, you would definitely want stable.
No, I think
Yeah, the
you're
purpose.
talking
The
about
purpose.
you're building the next generation front-end thingamajiggy.
David, the reason we were creating the stable is for those people that are creating those frameworks. That was the main purpose behind creating this extra thing, is to give them something to hold their to hold stable, so that they don't have to be chasing head all the time.
So then who are
So,
we not creating it for?
pardon me.
Then who are we not creating stable for?
Me.
Anybody that wants to use the classes, they
So can we
use
just rename
classes.
it Morton?
No,
Nobody's
okay, I put a new version up. So there's a popular framework, and then there's next generation. The thing is, we're gonna have people who wanna go above whatever Drupal does and say, you know what, I'm probably gonna override every goddamn template there is, but and I'm overriding everything of stable anyway, so I don't care about that anymore. And I just wanna run this way. Somebody.
If somebody bypasses stable, we're putting in a strong warning saying that basically we're changing everything. So that means that they actually have to chase head. The reason why we have stable is so that we can actually have them something to hang their hat on that's actually stable, without having all the classes that Classy puts on you. So you're not removing things and not overriding things. So the reason we have stable is so they have something that won't change. And that gives us the opportunity to change things in the background. Without stable, we don't have the opportunity to change things. And stable, the Wild West is really for us to make those changes.
Yeah, and we could even have a situation where Seven at some point says, "Well, I'm not going to follow Classy anymore. I'm actually going to follow all this crazy shit we built out in core."
And if you do that, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So,
But
that's what the warning's for. That's what the warning's for. So if you want to do that, you can do that. It just means there's you're chasing head. Essentially, something changes in the head. Yeah. You're going to be writing code for your whatever to follow that, and that's your prerogative.
I think with the diagram you have there, Morton, the stable 8.1 thing is confusing.
Oh yeah. No, I'm gonna. You have to go down to. Let me just remove the other one. I'm removing this one.
Yeah, there's two.
It's the one in the bottom.
All right.
That's the one. We're not gonna.
All right. Well, you continue to wear your cowboy boots and your hat and live in the Wild West, Morton. I'm going to be very happy with having a stable base.
Yes. No, we need a stable base because we need to be in this. There's no doubt about that. And it makes a lot of sense because we cannot wait another 5 years to be able to change something. And this also opens up the door if you figure out we want to rewrite admin interfaces as well, as far as I can see. So
I just want to. David mentioned that this other issue, Bartik preprocess HTML should use element is empty. I'm not sure what is this.
Can
you type it, David? We can't understand.
Sounds like ones and zeros. Very musical though.
I feel like I'm on a real life episode of Mr. Robot. Okay, so just pay attention to this issue. I'll take a look through.
Yeah,
This is this horrible renderable arrays don't know if there's anything in them, right?
Well, and not only that, but the whole paradigm has changed, and things can be lazy loaded into regions and all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah.
When people begin to talk about lazy load, I'm always kind of like, oh shit, now it goes downhill.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming, and yeah, we will keep plugging away.
And good work, everybody. We've accomplished so much, and we've got a little bit more to do. But oh my gosh, Drupal 8 theming is gonna rock. It really is.
I have already told my now employees that they need to put me on a Drupal 8 site as fast as possible because I cannot touch Drupal 7 ever again. That's just fuck that shit so much. And I know you should not speak ill about the dead or whatever, but it's just I've said it a couple of times as well at DrupalCon that to me Drupal 7 is at least the theme in there is so fucking dead compared to this. By the way, am I the only one? And me and Larry and David, are you coming to Bad Camp as well?
His robot avatar is coming.
Okay, Robot says no. Okay.
Robot says no. Okay.
Okay, I'll be there, Morten.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. I think I got tracked. Somehow I got called in to help doing some training, which apparently goes over the title about fuck decapitated Drupal or something, because apparently I do not know what it is I'm being hijacked for. But I'm going to talk about field theming and fun. I think it's that whole headless Drupal blah 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 thing, where kind of people have like, why are we even talking about this? Like, I don't know, but anyways, I'm going to be there from Thursday to Sunday. I'm going to be in the States for a week or something. But at that point, we have RCR 1, and there's happiness.
There will be happiness.
Awesome. All right. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, boys.